Dinner is done, the dishes are put away, and you sit down to finally rest. That is usually when it shows up. A dull tightness in the lower back. Socks leaving a deeper mark on your ankles than they used to. A kind of heaviness that was not there in your 40s. It is easy to blame a long day, but for many people past 60, this is the body quietly signaling that the kidneys are working harder than they should have to. It is not dramatic. It is not painful. That is precisely what makes it so easy to miss, month after month, until a routine checkup turns it into a bigger conversation than anyone wanted to have. The fruit we are talking about today is pineapple. Not for its sweetness, and not for how well it pairs with a summer afternoon, but for one particular compound hiding inside its core that researchers have been studying for its role in inflammation, something closely tied to how well your kidneys hold up over time. That compound is called bromelain, and it is concentrated most heavily in the tough, fibrous core of the pineapple that most people cut away and throw out. Bromelain is an enzyme, and some research suggests it may help the body manage inflammation, which matters because chronic, low-grade inflammation is one of the quiet stressors that can wear on kidney tissue over the years. This does not mean pineapple treats or cures anything. It simply means the compound has drawn scientific interest for how it interacts with inflammatory processes in the body. That distinction matters, so keep it in mind as we go. Beyond bromelain, pineapple carries a meaningful amount of vitamin C, and studies on antioxidant-rich foods generally point to a supportive role in protecting cells, including kidney cells, from the kind of oxidative stress that accumulates with age. It is not a shield, but it is one more small layer of support your body can use. Potassium is where things get a little more nuanced. Pineapple is naturally lower in potassium than many other fruits, like bananas or oranges. For someone whose kidney function has already declined significantly, high potassium foods can be genuinely risky, so this is worth pausing on. Pineapple's comparatively modest potassium content is one reason some dietitians mention it as a gentler fruit option for people managing kidney concerns, though this is always something to confirm with a doctor rather than assume applies to everyone. This is also a good moment to address something many people quietly worry about, that any fruit might automatically be off limits once kidney concerns enter the picture. That is not really how it works. Kidney-friendly eating is usually about balance and portion, not blanket avoidance, and this is exactly why pineapple tends to come up so often in these conversations rather than being dismissed outright. Here is the twist that tends to surprise people. It is not really the sweet, juicy flesh that researchers have focused on most. It is that fibrous, slightly tough core almost everyone throws directly into the trash. That overlooked part is where bromelain concentrates the most, which means the piece of the pineapple most of us discard without a second thought may actually be the more studied part of the fruit. Then, there is hydration and fluid balance. Pineapple is made up largely of water, and staying properly hydrated supports the kidneys in their basic job of filtering waste. It is not glamorous, but consistent, gentle hydration through food and drink is one of the simplest things researchers keep coming back to when they talk about supporting kidney health at any age. Think about how often thirst gets ignored later in life, simply because the signal itself grows weaker with age. A juicy fruit like this becomes an easy, almost effortless way to nudge daily fluid intake upward without having to think about it constantly. Here is the part most people skip past. Pineapple also contains manganese, a trace mineral involved in several of the body's basic metabolic processes. It will not headline any study on its own, but small, steady contributions like this are often what nutrition researchers mean when they talk about a food playing a supportive role rather than a starring one. Now, if you are thinking this sounds too simple to matter, that is a fair reaction. Most of us have been trained to expect health advice to be complicated, expensive, or restrictive to actually work. But some of the most consistent findings in nutrition research are about small, repeatable habits, not dramatic overhauls. Adding a modest, consistent amount of a fruit like pineapple into a broader, balanced diet is realistic in a way that a strict new regimen often is not, and realistic habits are the ones that actually stick past the first 2 weeks. There is also the concern that fresh pineapple feels like extra effort, another thing to prep on top of an already full day. In reality, a few chunks kept ready in the fridge, or a handful blended into a morning smoothie along with that often discarded core, takes barely a minute and fits into a routine that is already busy rather than demanding a new one be built from scratch. If there is one single point worth remembering from all of this, it is that the core is not scrap. Next time you cut a pineapple, consider blending that tougher center into a smoothie instead of tossing it, since that is the part carrying the bromelain researchers keep circling back to in their studies on inflammation. Of course, no single fruit replaces medical care, proper hydration habits, regular checkups, or a conversation with your doctor about your specific kidney numbers, especially if you already have a diagnosed condition. Think of pineapple less as a solution and more as one small, sensible addition to a lifestyle that already takes kidney health seriously, alongside the basics that still matter most, like managing blood pressure and keeping regular appointments with your doctor. If this gave you a new way to look at something as simple as a pineapple, tap that like button, and consider subscribing so you do not miss the rest of this series on foods that quietly support your body after 60. Down in the comments, I would genuinely like to know, do you usually eat the core of your pineapple, or has it always gone straight in the trash before today? And if you found this useful, our next video looks at a common drink many people over 60 have every single day, and what research says about its effect on kidney function, something you will not want to miss. So here is the one line to carry with you. A fruit as ordinary as pineapple, and specifically the core most of us discard, has been linked in research to properties that may gently support your body's fight against the kind of inflammation that wears on kidney health over time. Small, consistent choices like this will not work miracles overnight, but they add up quietly in the background, the same way the strain on your kidneys does when nobody is paying attention. Sometimes, taking care of yourself really does start with something this small.